In a quiet little town nestled between rolling hills and endless fields of golden wheat, there lived a young woman named Emma Carter. Her days were simple but fulfilling, spent working alongside her father on their family farm. From sunrise to sunset, she helped plow the fields, feed the livestock, and repair fences. Life on the farm taught Emma patience, resilience, and the importance of hard work. But what most people didn't know about Emma was that she had a secret passion: shooting. Emma's love for shooting began when she was just a child. Her father, a former hunter who now only used his rifle for occasional pest control, would take her out into the woods behind their property. He showed her how to hold the gun steady, how to breathe properly, and how to focus on the smallest details of her target. At first, it was just a way for them to bond, but over time, Emma discovered that she had a natural talent for it. She could hit targets with remarkable accuracy, even from great distances. While other kids played video games or rode bikes, Emma practiced her aim, often spending hours perfecting her technique. Despite her skill, Emma never sought recognition for her abilities. In fact, very few people outside her family knew about her talent. To everyone else in town, she was simply the farmer's daughter. People saw her as a hard-working girl who kept to herself and lived an ordinary life. No one imagined that beneath her modest exterior lay a sharpshooter capable of extraordinary feats. One day, while visiting the local market with her father, Emma noticed a flyer pinned to the bulletin board. It advertised an upcoming shooting competition at the county fairgrounds. Intrigued, she read through the details. The event promised cash prizes, trophies, and bragging rights for the best marksman in the region. Something inside her stirred, a mix of excitement and curiosity. For years, she had honed her skills in private, but now the idea of testing herself against others felt irresistible. Emma decided to enter the competition. When she told her father about her plan, he raised an eyebrow but nodded approvingly. "If you're going to do this, give it your all," he said, patting her shoulder. With his blessing, Emma signed up, using money she had saved from selling eggs at the market to cover the entry fee. She spent the next few weeks preparing diligently, practicing late into the evenings after finishing her chores. Her father watched proudly as she fine-tuned her technique, reminding her to stay calm under pressure. On the morning of the competition, Emma woke up early, her heart pounding with anticipation. She dressed in her usual work clothes, jeans, boots, and a flannel shirt, and packed her father's old hunting rifle carefully into its case. As she drove to the fairgrounds, doubts began creeping into her mind. Would anyone take her seriously? Would they laugh at her homemade gear? Shaking off these thoughts, she reminded herself why she was doing this, not for fame or glory, but to challenge herself and see how far she had come. When Emma arrived at the shooting range, the scene before her was overwhelming. Dozens of competitors milled about, adjusting their high-tech rifles and comparing notes. Some wore sleek uniforms adorned with sponsor logos, while others carried themselves with the confidence of seasoned professionals. Emma felt out of place, among them, clutching her battered rifle like a relic from another era. She tried to blend in as she set up her station, avoiding eye contact with the others. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. A group of men nearby noticed Emma and exchanged amused glances. One of them chuckled, saying loudly enough for her to hear, "What's this? Did we let a farmer in by mistake?" Another added, "Looks like someone brought their grandpa's gun." Their laughter stung, but Emma refused to let it show. Instead, she focused on setting up her equipment, double-checking every detail to ensure everything was in place. As the minutes ticked by, more competitors filtered in, including Marcus Kane, the reigning state champion. Tall, broad-shouldered, and exuding confidence, Marcus commanded attention wherever he went. He moved gracefully between stations, greeting fellow shooters with handshakes and friendly banter. When he passed by Emma's station, he paused briefly, glancing at her setup with a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Then, without saying a word, he walked away, clearly dismissing her as irrelevant. Despite the dismissive attitudes around her, Emma remained unfazed. She thought back to the countless hours she had spent practicing in solitude, the discipline she had cultivated over the years, and the lessons her father had taught her. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone else, it was about staying true to herself. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her nerves and prepared for the competition to begin. Little did anyone know, the farmer's daughter was about to make history in ways no one could have anticipated. The air at the shooting range buzzed with excitement as competitors prepared for the day's events. The fairgrounds, usually quiet and unassuming, had transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Rows of shooting stations stretched out across the field, each equipped with targets placed at varying distances. Spectators lined the edges, chatting animatedly while waiting for the competition to begin. Among them were seasoned marksmen, amateur enthusiasts, and curious onlookers, all drawn together by the thrill of precision and skill. Emma stood quietly at her station, her presence barely registering among the crowd. Around her, competitors exchanged tips, shared stories of past victories, or joked about their chances of winning today. Some wore expensive gear, their rifles gleaming under the sunlight, while others sported uniforms adorned with patches and logos from prestigious tournaments. Emma, however, stuck out like a sore thumb. Her worn flannel shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed boots marked her as an outsider, someone who didn't belong in this world of polished professionalism. Even her rifle, a relic handed down from her father, looked out of place next to the sleek high-tech weapons surrounding her. As she adjusted her stance and checked her equipment one last time, Emma couldn't help but notice the whispers. A group of men nearby leaned casually against a fence, their eyes occasionally flicking toward her. One of them smirked, nudging his friend. "Hey, check out the farmer's daughter," he said loud enough for her to hear. His tone dripped with mockery. "Think she's here to shoot crows off her barn?" The comment earned a round of laughter from the group, but Emma kept her focus. She tightened her grip on her rifle, pretending not to notice. It wasn't just the men making jokes. Even some of the women competitors raised skeptical eyebrows when they passed by. One woman stopped momentarily, glancing at Emma's setup before shaking her head slightly. "You sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her voice tinged with condescension. "This isn't exactly beginner-friendly." Emma offered a polite smile, nodding without responding. Inside, though, she felt a spark of defiance ignite. These people had no idea what she was capable of, and that thought gave her strength. Amid the sea of skeptics, one figure stood out above all: Marcus Kane, the reigning state champion. Standing tall and broad-shouldered, Marcus exuded confidence. His reputation preceded him, and everyone knew his name. With multiple championships under his belt and a sponsorship deal with a major firearms company, Marcus was the epitome of success in the shooting world. As he moved through the range, greeting fellow competitors and signing autographs for fans, he seemed untouchable. When Marcus finally approached Emma's station, it was clear he had heard the rumors about the farmer's daughter competing. He paused briefly, tilting his head as if studying her. Up close, his piercing gaze and sharp features made him seem almost intimidating. For a moment, Emma wondered if he would say something cutting, joining in on the ridicule. Instead, he simply smirked, shook his head slightly, and walked away, without uttering a word. It was dismissive, but somehow less cruel than the outright mockery she'd faced earlier. Still, the message was clear. In Marcus's eyes, Emma was nothing more than a novelty act, someone unworthy of serious consideration. Despite the growing tension around her, Emma remained calm. She reminded herself why she was here: to challenge herself, not to win anyone else's approval. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Focus on the target, not the noise around you. Taking a deep breath, she visualized the practice sessions she'd spent hours perfecting back home. Every shot fired into the woods behind the farm, every moment of frustration when she missed her mark, and every triumphant hit had led her to this point. She wasn't going to let anyone's doubt shake her resolve. As officials called for silence and announced the start of the competition, Emma steadied herself. The first round would be straightforward. Each competitor would take turns, firing 5 shots at a stationary target positioned 100 yards away. Points would be awarded based on accuracy, with deductions for stray bullets or missed shots. Simple enough, but already nerves were running high. Some competitors fidgeted anxiously, adjusting their scopes or pacing back and forth. Others adopted stoic expressions, determined to project confidence. When it was Emma's turn to step up to the line, the atmosphere shifted slightly. Conversations died down, and several pairs of eyes turned toward her. She could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down, but she refused to let it show. Slowly, deliberately, she raised her rifle, aligning the sights perfectly with the distant target. Her breathing slowed, her heartbeat steadied, and the world around her faded away. All that mattered was the tiny red dot at the center of the bullseye. The crack of the first shot rang out sharp and sudden, cutting through the stillness. Emma lowered her rifle, exhaling softly as she waited for confirmation. Officials peered through binoculars, checking the target closely. Then came the murmurs, low at first, then louder. Someone gasped audibly. Another person swore under their breath. Confusion rippled through the crowd as they tried to process what had just happened. When the scorekeeper announced the result, the entire range fell silent. Emma's first shot hadn't just hit the bullseye, it had shattered expectations. Perfectly centered, flawless execution. In that single moment, the farmer's daughter went from being invisible to unforgettable. And though no one said it aloud, the unspoken question hung heavy in the air. Who was this girl and where had she come from? The silence that followed Emma's first shot was deafening. For a moment it felt as though time itself had frozen. The crowd stared at the target in disbelief, their eyes darting between the perfect bullseye and the unassuming figure of the farmer's daughter standing calmly at her station. Officials double-checked the scorecard, measuring the distance from the center of the target to ensure there was no mistake. But the result was undeniable. Emma's shot was flawless, precise, clean, and better than anyone could have anticipated. Whispers erupted among the spectators, growing louder with each passing second. Some were impressed, while others struggled to reconcile what they had just witnessed with their preconceived notions about Emma. "Did you see that?" one man exclaimed, turning to his friend. "She hit dead center on her first try." Another shook his head, muttering, "No way, that's beginner's luck." Nearby, a woman who had earlier mocked Emma's presence now looked uneasy, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Even Marcus Kane, who had been leaning casually against a nearby table chatting with other competitors, straightened up and turned his attention toward Emma. His confident smirk faltered slightly, replaced by a flicker of curiosity, and perhaps a hint of unease. Emma, however, remained unfazed by the sudden surge of attention. She lowered her rifle slowly, her expression calm and composed. Years of practice on the farm had taught her to block out distractions, focusing only on the task at hand. To her, this was just another day of doing what she loved. Still, she couldn't ignore the shift in energy around her. Where moments ago she had been dismissed as an outsider, now all eyes were fixed on her. The weight of those stares might have rattled someone else, but Emma simply took a deep breath and prepared for her next shot. As the competition resumed, the atmosphere grew tense. Competitors rotated through their turns, firing carefully at the targets. Each round brought new challenges, testing not only accuracy but also consistency under pressure. Many of the seasoned marksmen performed admirably, hitting their marks with impressive precision. Yet every time Emma stepped up to the line, something extraordinary happened. Her shots weren't just good, they were exceptional. One after another. Her bullets found the center of the bullseye with uncanny accuracy, leaving officials scrambling to record scores that defied expectations. By the third round, whispers of beginner's luck had faded into murmurs of genuine awe. Even the UA skeptics began to take notice. A few grudgingly admitted that maybe there was more to this girl than met the eye. Others tried to rationalize her performance, searching for explanations. Was her rifle somehow rigged? Had she secretly trained with professionals? Or was she truly as talented as her results suggested? No one could deny the evidence before them. Emma Carter was rewriting the rules of the game. Marcus, in particular, seemed increasingly unsettled. As the reigning champion, he had grown accustomed to being the center of attention, the one everyone admired and feared. Now for the first time in years he found himself overshadowed. When it was his turn to shoot, he executed his moves with mechanical precision, hitting his marks exactly as expected. But even his flawless technique couldn't match the raw perfection of Emma's shots. With each passing round, the gap between their scores narrowed, a fact that did not go unnoticed by the audience or by Marcus himself. Between rounds, Marcus approached Emma for the first time since the competition began. His usual swagger was tempered by a note of caution, his voice measured as he spoke. "You're quite the surprise," he said, his tone neutral but probing. "I don't think I've seen you at any of the regional competitions before. Are you new to this?" Emma glanced up from adjusting her rifle, meeting his gaze steadily. There was no arrogance in her response, only quiet confidence. "I've been practicing my whole life," she replied simply. Her words carried a depth that caught Marcus off guard. He hesitated for a moment, studying her face as if trying to read her thoughts. Then with a curt nod, he stepped back, retreating, to his station without another word. The interaction didn't escape the notice of the crowd. Spectators exchanged glances, intrigued by the dynamic unfolding before them. Here was Marcus Kane, the undisputed king of the range, facing a challenge unlike anything he'd encountered before. And here was Emma Carter, a humble farmer's daughter, proving that greatness can emerge from the most unexpected places. As the fourth round commenced, the tension reached its peak. Targets were placed farther away, requiring competitors to adjust their aim and account for variables like wind speed and distance. For many, these conditions proved difficult, leading to missed shots and dropped points. Emma, however, adapted seamlessly. Her focus never wavered, her hands steady despite the increasing difficulty. With each crack of her rifle, the crowd held, its collective breath waiting to see if she could maintain her streak. One particularly challenging target stood 200 yards away, positioned slightly uphill. Most competitors struggled to hit it cleanly, their shots scattering around the edges of the bullseye. When it was Emma's turn, the entire range went silent. She raised her rifle slowly, aligning the sights with meticulous care. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the grass and creating ripples across the nearby pond. Emma paused, allowing herself a moment to assess the conditions. Then, with a single fluid motion, she fired. The bullet struck true, landing squarely in the center of the target. Cheers erupted from the crowd, breaking the spell of concentration that had enveloped the range. Even some of the skeptics clapped reluctantly, unable to deny the skill they had just witnessed. Marcus watched silently from his station, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. It was clear to everyone now. Emma wasn't just holding her own. She was excelling. By the end of the fifth round, Emma's name was on everyone's lips. What had started as a day filled with doubt and ridicule had transformed into something extraordinary. The farmer's daughter, once dismissed as an amateur, had risen to become a serious contender. And though the final round still lay ahead, one thing was certain. Emma Carter had already made history. The sixth round of the competition marked a turning point, not just for Emma but for the entire event. By now, the initial skepticism that had greeted her had given way to a mix of admiration and apprehension. Competitors who had laughed at her earlier were now watching her every move with wary eyes. Even spectators who had come expecting a routine display of skill from seasoned marksmen found themselves captivated by the unfolding drama. The farmer's daughter was no longer an underdog. She was a force to be reckoned with. As Emma stepped up to take her position, the air seemed heavier, charged with anticipation. This round introduced moving targets, a significant challenge designed to test not only accuracy but also speed and adaptability. The targets swung back and forth on pulleys, mimicking unpredictable motion. For many competitors, this was where their precision faltered as they struggled to anticipate the trajectory of the swaying discs. Missed shots became more frequent, and frustration rippled through the crowd. Emma, however, approached the task with the same calm determination she had shown since the start. She studied the movement of the targets carefully, noting their rhythm and timing. Her father's advice echoed in her mind. Patience is key. Rushing will only cost you. Taking a deep breath, she raised her rifle, aligning her sights with the path of the first swinging target. The range fell silent as everyone waited for her shot. Then, with perfect timing, she fired. The bullet struck the center of the disc just as it reached its peak swing. Cheers erupted immediately, followed by murmurs of disbelief. Encouraged by her success, Emma moved on to the next target. Each one presented its own unique challenge. Some moved faster, others changed direction abruptly, but Emma adapted effortlessly. Her years of practice on the farm had trained her to remain patient and observant, qualities that served her well here. Where others hesitated or rushed their shots, she stayed composed, trusting her instincts. By the time she finished the sequence, her scorecard reflected near perfection, leaving even the most seasoned competitors in awe. Meanwhile, Marcus Kane was visibly struggling. Known for his consistency and precision, he had always excelled in high-pressure situations. But today something was different. Perhaps it was the unexpected competition from Emma, or maybe it was the weight of expectations pressing down on him. Whatever the reason, his usually flawless performance began to show cracks. On his third attempt, he misjudged the timing of a fast-moving target, his shot grazing the edge instead of hitting the bullseye. Though minor, the mistake drew gasps from the crowd, who had come to expect perfection from him. Marcus clenched his jaw, his frustration evident. He glanced toward Emma's station, his expression unreadable. There was no denying it now, she was outpacing him. Not just matching his skill, but surpassing it. For a man used to dominance, this realization must have been humbling and infuriating. Yet, to his credit, he didn't let his emotions get the better of him. Instead, he refocused, determined to reclaim his lead. When it was his turn again, he executed his shots with renewed intensity, narrowing the gap between their scores. The tension between them grew palpable, drawing the audience deeper into the competition. People began placing bets, debating whether Marcus could recover his momentum or if Emma would hold her ground. Some rooted for Marcus, admiring his experience and resilience. Others cheered for Emma, inspired by her underdog story and quiet confidence. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, each shot met with either cheers or groans depending on the outcome. Between rounds, Marcus made another attempt to engage Emma. This time, his tone carried a hint of respect, though it was clear he was still grappling with her presence as a rival. "You're full of surprises," he said, leaning casually against the barrier separating their stations. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Emma paused, considering his question thoughtfully before responding. "On the farm," she said simply. "We don't have fancy equipment or training grounds, just open fields and plenty of time to practice." Her answer seemed to surprise him. He frowned slightly, as if trying to reconcile her humble origins with the extraordinary talent she displayed. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "Well, you've earned your place here," he admitted, though the words came reluctantly. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was acknowledgement, and coming from someone like Marcus, that meant something. As the seventh round began, the challenges intensified further. Targets were placed at extreme distances, some as far as 300 yards away. Wind gusts picked up, adding another layer of difficulty. Many competitors faltered under these conditions, their shots scattering wildly. Emma, however, remained unfazed. She adjusted her aim meticulously, accounting for wind speed and distance with remarkable precision. One particularly tricky target required a sharp, upward angle, testing both strength and technique. When Emma fired, the bullet landed dead center, eliciting a roar of approval from the crowd. Even Marcus couldn't help but crack a smile at that shot, though it quickly faded as he returned to his own station. His competitive spirit burned brighter than ever, driving him to push harder. He delivered several impressive shots, closing the gap between their scores once more. The final rounds promised to be a nail-biting showdown, with both shooters neck and neck. By Xiu. The time the eighth round concluded, exhaustion was setting in for many participants. Hours of intense focus and physical exertion had taken their toll. Hands trembled, shoulders ached, and nerves frayed. Yet Emma showed no signs of fatigue. If anything, she seemed more energized, feeding off the energy of the crowd and the thrill of the competition. Her movements remained smooth and deliberate, her concentration unwavering. The ninth round brought yet another twist. Multiple targets appeared simultaneously, requiring competitors to divide their attention and fire rapidly, without sacrificing accuracy. This was where experience truly mattered, as even the smallest hesitation could cost valuable points. Marcus, relying on years of practice, managed to hit most of his marks cleanly. But Emma matched him step for step, her quick reflexes and steady hands ensuring she didn't fall behind. As the final round loomed, the scoreboard told a compelling story. Emma and Marcus were tied for the lead, with only a handful of points separating them from the rest of the field. The tension was electric, the outcome uncertain. Spectators leaned forward in their seats, unwilling to miss a single moment. Officials, prepared for what promised to be a dramatic conclusion, double-checking equipment and ensuring everything was ready. For Emma, this was more than just a competition. It was a chance to prove to herself and to the world that greatness can come from anywhere, regardless of background or resources. She thought about her father, who had taught her everything she knew, and the countless hours she had spent honing her craft in solitude. All of it had led her to this moment, standing shoulder to shoulder with the best in the sport. The final challenge awaited. 10 consecutive shots at increasingly difficult targets, each designed to test endurance, precision, and mental fortitude. As Emma took her position, she felt a surge of determination. No matter what happened next, she had already proven herself. But she wasn't done yet, not until the last shot rang out and the dust settled. The final round of the competition was the ultimate test, a grueling challenge that would push every competitor to their limits. 10 consecutive shots, each more difficult than the last, awaited them. The targets were placed at extreme distances, some partially obscured by obstacles while others moved erratically or changed positions mid-round. It wasn't just about hitting the bullseye anymore. It was about doing so under immense pressure, with fatigue setting in and the stakes higher than ever. For Emma Carter, this was the moment she had been preparing for her entire life, even if she hadn't realized it until now. As officials signaled the start of the final round, the range fell eerily silent. The crowd leaned forward in anticipation, their eyes glued to the competitors. Every movement mattered, every shot counted. Emma stood tall, her posture relaxed but focused. She took a moment to steady herself, closing her eyes briefly as she drew in a slow, deliberate breath. Her father's voice echoed softly in her mind. "Stay calm. Trust your instincts." Opening her eyes, she raised her rifle and aligned her sights with the first target, a stationary disc positioned 300 yards away. The crack of her first shot rang out, sharp and clear. The bullet struck true, landing squarely in the center of the target. A collective murmur of approval rippled through the spectators, though no one cheered yet. There were still 9 shots to go, and anything could happen. Emma didn't allow herself to dwell on the success of her opening shot. Instead, she shifted her focus immediately to the second target, which swung side to side on a pulley system. Timing was critical here. She waited patiently, tracking its motion until she found the perfect moment to fire. Once again, her aim was flawless, earning another perfect score. By this point, the tension among the other competitors was palpable. Marcus Kane, standing several stations down, gritted his teeth as he worked through his own sequence. His earlier struggles had faded somewhat, replaced by renewed determination. Each of his shots hit their marks cleanly, showcasing the skill and precision that had earned him multiple championships. Yet despite his best efforts, he remained tied with Emma, their scores neck and neck. The rivalry between them had evolved into something deeper, no longer just a battle of skill, but a clash of wills. Who would blink first? Emma moved on to the third target, which introduced a new level of complexity. This one was positioned behind a wooden barrier, visible only through a narrow slit. Competitors had to adjust their aim carefully to account for the obstruction, making it easy to miss entirely. Many faltered here, their frustration evident as they fired off rushed or poorly aimed shots. But Emma approached the task methodically. She crouched slightly to get a better angle, her movements calm and deliberate. When she fired, the bullet passed cleanly through the slit, striking the bullseye with pinpoint accuracy. Gasps erupted, from the crowd followed by scattered applause. Even Marcus paused momentarily, glancing over with a look of reluctant admiration. The fourth target proved even trickier. It moved diagonally across the range while simultaneously spinning. Hitting such a dynamic target required not only precise aim, but also split-second decision-making. Several competitors missed entirely, their bullets grazing the edges or sailing wide. Emma, however, remained unfazed. She studied the target's erratic motion, waiting for the exact moment when its rotation aligned with her line of sight. Then, with unwavering confidence, she fired. The shot landed dead center, eliciting a roar of approval from the audience. At this rate, it seemed impossible for anyone to catch up to her. Marcus, meanwhile, was beginning to show signs of strain. His usual composure wavered slightly as he faced the fifth target, which demanded rapid-fire precision. 3 discs appeared simultaneously, swinging wildly in different directions. He managed to hit 2 of them cleanly, but his third shot grazed the edge of the final disc, costing him valuable points. Though minor, the mistake was enough to widen the gap between him and Emma. Frustration flickered across his face, though. He quickly masked it with determination. He couldn't afford any more errors, not if he wanted to reclaim his title. Emma continued to shine, her performance bordering on perfection. By the time she reached the 6th target, she had established herself as the clear frontrunner. This particular target was placed at an astonishing 400 yards, the farthest distance of the day, and required competitors to compensate for wind resistance and elevation changes. Most struggled to even come close, their shots scattering wildly. Emma, however, adjusted her aim meticulously, drawing on years of practice in unpredictable conditions. When she fired, the bullet traveled with unerring accuracy, striking the bullseye with a resounding thud. The crowd erupted into cheers, unable to contain their excitement any longer. With 4 shots remaining, the pressure mounted. The 7th target introduced a curveball. It was partially hidden behind a cluster of fake trees, forcing competitors to shoot around obstacles. Many hesitated, unsure of how to approach the challenge. Emma, however, trusted her instincts. She adjusted her stance, tilting her rifle slightly to find the optimal angle. Her shot sailed cleanly through the narrow gap, landing exactly where it needed to. Each successive hit seemed to cement her status as the day's standout performer. Marcus refused to give up, pouring every ounce of his energy into catching up. He delivered several impressive shots, narrowing the gap slightly, but it wasn't enough. Emma's consistency and precision left little room for error, and Marcus knew it. As they approached the 8th target, a large moving disc suspended. High above the ground, both shooters gave it their all. Emma's shot hit the mark perfectly, while Marcus's grazed the edge, a small but significant difference that sealed his fate. The 9th target brought another twist. It was a tiny, fast-moving circle that darted unpredictably across the range. Even seasoned marksmen struggled to keep up with its erratic motion. Emma, however, relied on her quick reflexes and steady hands. She tracked the target's path carefully, firing at the precise moment it slowed slightly. The bullet struck true, leaving the crowd in awe. Only 1 shot remained. The final target was the most daunting of all, a distant disc surrounded by distractions, including loud noises and flashing lights designed to break concentration. Emma stepped up to the line, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She blocked out everything, the noise, the lights, the weight of expectation, and focused solely on the task at hand. With a deep breath, she raised her rifle, lined up her sights, and fired. The shot was perfect. For a moment, there was silence. Then the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, cheering and whistling as officials confirmed the results. Emma had done it. She had not only won the competition, but shattered records along the way. Her name would go down in history as the unlikely champion who defied all odds. Marcus approached her moments later, extending his hand with genuine respect. "You've earned this," he said simply, his earlier skepticism replaced by admiration. Emma shook his hand firmly, offering a small smile. "Thank you," she replied. "It's been an honor competing against someone like you." As the award ceremony began, Emma stood proudly on the podium, holding her trophy aloft. Cameras flashed, capturing the image of a humble farmer's daughter who had proven that greatness can emerge from the most unexpected places. For Emma, this victory was more than just personal. It was a reminder that talent knows no boundaries and hard work always pays off in the end. Emma's victory at the county fairgrounds sent shockwaves through the shooting community. News of her record-breaking performance spread like wildfire, capturing the attention of both local media and national organizations. Reporters flocked to the small rural town, eager to interview the farmer's daughter who stunned the champions. Cameras rolled as Emma stood outside her family's modest farmhouse, speaking humbly about her journey. She recounted how she had learned to shoot with her father's old rifle, practicing tirelessly in the fields behind their home. Her story resonated deeply with people, a testament to hard work, determination, and the belief that greatness can come from anywhere. The headlines told it all. From farm fields to bullseye glory, unlikely champion takes the crown, and farmer's daughter shatters records at county fair. Local newspapers ran front-page stories featuring photos of Emma holding her trophy, her weathered hands gripping the polished surface. Television segments highlighted her humble beginnings, showing footage of her working on the farm alongside her father. Viewers were captivated by the contrast between her simple life and the extraordinary skill she displayed on the range. For many, Emma became a symbol of hope, an example of what could be achieved when passion met perseverance. As word of her triumph reached wider audiences, invitations poured in from prestigious tournaments across the country. Shooting clubs extended offers for sponsorship deals, while national competitions requested her participation. Coaches and trainers reached out, hoping to guide her toward even greater heights. At first, Emma was overwhelmed by the sudden influx of attention. Growing up in a quiet farming community, she had never imagined herself in the spotlight. But after discussing it with her father, she decided to embrace the opportunities, not for fame or fortune, but because she loved the sport and wanted to see how far she could go. Despite the whirlwind of excitement surrounding her newfound success, Emma remained grounded. She continued living her life much as she always had, waking up early each morning to tend to the farm before heading out to practice. Her father joked that if they didn't keep things normal, she might start thinking she was too good for barn chores. The comment made Emma laugh, but it also reminded her of where she came from and the values that had shaped her. No matter how far she traveled or how many trophies she won, she would always be the farmer's daughter at heart. Back at the farm, life carried on as usual, though with one notable addition: a growing collection of awards and accolades. Trophies lined the shelves in the living room, gleaming under the soft glow of sunlight streaming through the windows. Emma's father teased her about needing to build another barn just to store them all. "Next thing you know, we'll have tourists stopping by to take pictures," he said with a chuckle. Despite his light-hearted tone, there was immense pride in his voice. He had always believed in his daughter's potential, and now the rest of the world did too. Emma's impact extended beyond her personal achievements. Her story inspired countless others to pursue their passions regardless of background or circumstances. Young girls in particular looked up to her as a role model, seeing themselves reflected in her journey. Schools invited her to speak at career days where she encouraged students to chase their dreams and trust in their abilities. "You don't need fancy equipment or expensive training to succeed," she told them. "All you need is dedication and a willingness to keep trying, even when things get tough." Her influence also sparked conversations within the shooting community. Competitors who had once dismissed her began re-evaluating their assumptions about talent and potential. Marcus Kane, whose initial skepticism had given way to respect, became one of her biggest advocates. In interviews, he praised her skill and humility, acknowledging that she had raised the bar for everyone else. "Emma's not just a great shooter, she's a reminder that this sport is about more than just winning," he said. It's about pushing yourself to be better every day. Over time, Emma's reputation grew beyond regional competitions. She traveled to national events, facing off against some of the best marksmen in the country. Though the stakes were higher and the pressure more intense, she approached each challenge with the same calm focus that had defined her performance at the county fairgrounds. Her consistency earned her numerous victories, solidifying her status as a rising star in the sport. Yet despite her growing fame, she never lost sight of why she started shooting in the first place. For the love of it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the fields, Emma sat with her father on the porch. They sipped coffee quietly, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky. "You've come a long way, kiddo," her father said finally, breaking the comfortable silence. "But I think your mom would be proud of you." Emma smiled softly, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "I hope so," she replied. "And I hope she knows I'm still the same girl who used to run around these fields chasing chickens." Her father laughed, patting her shoulder affectionately. In the months and years that followed, Emma continued to balance her dual roles as a champion shooter and a devoted farmer's daughter. She proved that success doesn't have to change who you are. It simply gives you a platform to share your story with the world. And for Emma Carter, that story was one of resilience, humility, and unwavering determination. From the quiet fields of her childhood to the bustling ranges of national competitions, she showed the world that greatness often hides where people least expect it, and sometimes, all it takes is one perfect shot to change everything.